not all of them are actually trafficked, because there are many who are actually joining the sex work as a better option for escaping from other oppressive workplaces like the factory works, where they're working for hard, like working for long hours and being beaten by their bosses.
Okay.
And
Good.
yeah,
So it is a common understanding. Many of us, we assume that those who are the sex worker, basically they entered within this job industry not because by their own choice, rather they entered through coercion or deception or through by trafficking. There is a common understanding about many of us. So the article mostly challenged this kind of narrative that the women, they didn't enter the sex industry not because of coercion, deception, or trafficking. Rather, many of them, they entered in the job market, the sex industry, because of it was their own choice. It was not because of trafficking or something like this. However, the question choice, it is also problematic, because the socioeconomic condition in which they are living, that is mostly lead them to enter in this kind of job market. Okay, so the socioeconomic condition that mostly economic exploitation, labor exploitation within the third world countries. Okay, clear? Faiza, clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can you read it out over the last three decades?
Yes, sir. Over the last 3 decades, journalists, academics, non-governmental organizations, and the U.S. State Department formed a controversial movement to end modern-day slavery, an umbrella term referring to human trafficking for both sex and other labor arrangements. This paper uses the case of Vietnam, a Tier 2 country in the U.S. State Department's trafficking in persons report, to critique the notion that all sex workers are caught up in modern-day slavery and require rescue. This paper is based
Okay, thank
on
you. Thank you so much. So it was the তোমার হচ্ছে UN agencies, not only the UN agencies, but also the US State Department and in European State Department. Majority of them, they argued that the third world countries women, those who have entered in the sex industry, mostly they were deceived or they were trafficked. And their commitment to rescue, to save the women from so-called sex industry, so-called trafficked women, this is their commitment. And you are aware that the majority of the, we have already discussed it in our Maria Mais articles class. এই জন্য আমি বারবার I'm just reiterating again and again Maria Mais articles. And be aware that our final exam মধ্যে Maria Mais will automatically be there. Okay, so please read Maria Mais again, those who have not yet read it. Okay, so you are aware that within the landscape of modern economic system, there are relationship, dependency types relationships, such as Western world, they are mostly the consumer, and third world countries, they are mostly the producer. So the third world countries, to survive and to operate its economy, it mostly depend on Western societies, specifically US state, European states. As they're mostly dependent on Western societies, they have to maintain. So Western societies, because of the vibrant civil movement, তারপর feminist movement in Western world, that the way they are operating and implementing their economic policies in third world countries, that is something repressive, that is something problematic. So they always try to incorporate the question of the women, try to incorporate the question of the labor, and they always try to enhance the work environment, all as well as the rights, dignity, and they always try to empower the women, the labor of the third world countries. So তোমার because of that vibrant এই যে movement in Western societies, the US State Department, UN agencies, and other agencies, they have implemented, and they have declared their policy that they will rescue the third world countries women, those who are the victim of so-called trafficking or something like this, and they will rescue the labor from modern day slavery. So whenever they make any deal with any third world countries, they always urge that countries whether your তোমার হচ্ছে এই যে এটার নাম কি, whether your economic conditions, whether your factories, হ্যাঁ, whether in industries, হ্যাঁ, whether it is মানে হচ্ছে labor friendly or women friendly or something like this. So they assume that women within this landscape, they are mostly deprived, exploited, trafficked, deceived. So these women actually need to rescue. The author Kimberly argued and challenged this মানে হচ্ছে notion that these women, they're actually the victim. Clear? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in order to demonstrate মানে হচ্ছে her arguments, first of all, what actually she did, she took interviews both from তোমার হচ্ছে এই যে sex workers, their clients. Many of us, we assume that the clients, they are mostly masculine, patriarchal, vibrant, and they actually হ্যাঁ তোমার হচ্ছে এই যে they actually তোমার traffic those women, হ্যাঁ. So they are the mostly they are the culprits, they are the perpetrators. But the author argued that when she talked about talked with the clients, that the clients is not generally they are the perpetrators, they are not the তোমার হচ্ছে so called হ্যাঁ এই যে এটার নাম হচ্ছে deceptive person or something like this. Rather হ্যাঁ তোমার হচ্ছে there are also gray areas in reading the so called John or so called এটাকে কি বলে clients. Okay, so the author mostly talked with তোমার হচ্ছে sex workers, clients, the NGOs, and তোমার NGOs. Why NGOs? Because we have already discussed in Harvey's article that during 90s, during 80s specifically, yeah, তোমার হচ্ছে how NGOization mostly flooded in majority of the third world countries to enrich, to empower third world countries women. So NGOs তোমার হচ্ছে within this landscape, হ্যাঁ তোমার হচ্ছে they worked as substitute of the state, হ্যাঁ, and mostly তোমার হচ্ছে they accumulated the fund donation from first world, হ্যাঁ, specifically from Western societies to rescue the women. So they also talked with তোমার হচ্ছে police department. The author also talked with police department, with NGO workers, হ্যাঁ, and what actually she argued that the way Western world, the NGO workers, they argue to rescue or save women from the so-called trafficking, it is something misleading. Okay, because the author argued that the sex workers and clients are engaged in complex relationship that may foster mutual support. So it is not এটা সব সময় যে it is because of তোমার হচ্ছে exploitation, trafficking, it is not because of that. There are তোমার হচ্ছে mutual support, choice, as well as opportunities for exploitation by one or both parties. Okay, clear? Clear সবাই?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then okay, can you explain this one, Mashaik? Critical humanitarianism and sex work as a pathway toward mobility. What actually the author tried to explore here? Mashaik?
No, sir, but I can't explain it.
Mehnaz?
Sir, I think here what the author is trying to say, that when they're talking, when the discourse about abolishing sex trafficking, they ওরা ধরেই নেয় যে জিনিসটা খুবই খারাপ, হ্যাঁ, and that people are in some way, in some systemic ways, are becoming forced to give into this sexual industry. But এটাতে মানুষের agency নাই. There are some people who actually want to do this work because maybe they like it, or maybe it is just the best alternative that there is. So without looking into that agency of people, without looking into that voices of people, ওরা ধরেই নেয় যে মানুষজন আসলে coercive methods through তে এই কাজটা করে.
But this is something misleading. Okay,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
okay. So তোমার হচ্ছে so এই যে because can you read it out from here, Mashaik? Many of these women,
Many of these women saw male clients as providing them with real, hopeful alternative pathways to economic, mobility outside of sex work. Through men's payments and monetary gifts, many women became small entrepreneurs, opening local businesses and empowering other sex workers in their entrepreneurial
Endeavors.
and endeavors.
For these sex workers,
For these sex workers, the supposedly criminal Johns provided better resources than NGOs ever could.
okay. So why the NGOs question তোমার হচ্ছে emerged here?
Because sir NGOs গুলো আসলে they are working like the state police almost. ওরা ওদেরকে they contain them in their facilities, in their houses, and they make them do their chores, the household chores, which is basically
Yes.
unpaid reproductive labor. And on the top of that, they're also making them work as artisans, and then they're selling these products with a large markup profit that these women who are the victims here are not getting like the profit of,
Okay,
you know.
good. So in order to understand that phenomena, first of all, we need to know the landscape of the Vietnam itself. You know, Vietnam or the colony, Vietnam was a colony of France for more than তোমার হচ্ছে 2 centuries, and তোমার হচ্ছে following its emancipation from colonial rule, you are aware that the two part of Vietnam, তাই না? They were engaged in civil war, and one part were তোমার হচ্ছে mostly patronized by the US, and another part was mostly patronized by the China. And when a civil war, it took near about 30 years to end it. And you know, when following তোমার হচ্ছে its final emancipation from US তোমার হচ্ছে occupant, এই যে এটার নাম কি হচ্ছে encroachment, হ্যাঁ তোমার হচ্ছে the Vietnamese, they are mostly a socialist country. But however, following the fall of communist regime all over the world, the Vietnam, they started to make ally with other তোমার হচ্ছে democratic societies, and they also তোমার হচ্ছে liberalize their own economy. And within that তোমার হচ্ছে landscape, what actually তোমার হচ্ছে Vietnamese government did, they made ally with United States, and United States, what actually they asked them, এই যে এখানে একটু পড়ো তো, এই যে under the Vietnamese, এটা একটা, can you read it out, Menas? Under the Vietnam's market liberalization.
Under Vietnam's market liberalization, the government had to grapple with conflicting state agendas with respect to the commercial sex trade. In order to appeal to Western investors and markets, the Vietnamese government responded to pressures from the US State Department to begin criminalizing prostitution. The US State Department's Trafficking in Persons Report 2008-2013 placed Vietnam as a Tier 2 country on their watch list. As such, the Vietnamese state adopted oppressive measures to crack down on prostitution.
Okay,
In
next.
2006, following President George W. Bush's visit to Vietnam, the Vietnamese government launched a 5-year, $30.5 million program to crack down on prostitution through a campaign designed to eliminate social evils.
So what is social evils? So this is the তোমার হচ্ছে prostitution. However, there are reasons to তোমার হচ্ছে brand leveling তোমার the Vietnamese at tier 2 countries of the prostitution. You know, during 30 years of the civil war, you are aware the final outcome of the war. Within any state, we have already talked about in terms of Afghanistan, what actually happened তোমার হচ্ছে during 20 years of the war. So same thing happened, যেখানে তোমার হচ্ছে war mostly prolonged হয় more than 1 to 3 years. So think about the 30 years war. What actually happened following 30 years prolonged war? The whole country normally massacred people, তাই না হচ্ছে, they do not have any access to education, any health. People are mostly তোমার হচ্ছে living under impoverishment and so on. So within this context, the majority of the people, they always তোমার হচ্ছে search for alternative means. So women at that moment, the majority of the women তোমার হচ্ছে they found hope within the মানে হচ্ছে sex industry. Think about, within that context, they didn't have any kind of তোমার হচ্ছে space where they can find hope, because everything totally collapsed during war. What actually happened? So majority of the women at that moment, they entered in the sex industry. and you are aware what actually we talked during তোমার হচ্ছে Maria Mice article. The majority of the Western people at that moment তোমার হচ্ছে তাদের যখন social system mostly তোমার হচ্ছে breakdown হয়ে গিয়েছে, and at that moment the তোমার হচ্ছে you are aware the majority of the Western people, হ্যাঁ, even Western societies, they are the consumers মানে they are unhappy with their তোমার হচ্ছে marital relationship. Many of them they visited and they traveled the Vietnamese societies, because already due to the war, during the war time, many European soldiers, sorry, American soldiers, they had to stay in Vietnam, and they already developed a kind of sex industry in Vietnam. So তোমার হচ্ছে there was a context of তোমার হচ্ছে sex industry, the booming reasons of the industry, the sex industry in Vietnam. So this industry mostly continued even তোমার হচ্ছে following the তোমার হচ্ছে এই যে এটার নাম কি emancipation of তোমার হচ্ছে Vietnamese societies. So what actually happened, এই যে when Vietnamese society, Vietnamese state, they started to engage with Western societies. The Western societies, first of all, they criminalized the prostitution, and they declared to annihilate these social evils. Clear? Clear? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next. Yes. Menas, this campaign?
This campaign was a part of a larger effort to respond to a global outcry against the plight of human trafficking victims led by the US government agencies, religious organizations, and NGOs who flooded the country in 2006 to help rescue poor third world women believed to be at risk of trafficking into the sex trade. As a result, the police shut down hundreds of bars and karaoke lounges and took to the streets to arrest sex workers. Women who worked as freelance entrepreneurs in the sex industries and who did not need or want assistance were often misidentified by local police, NGOs, and the state as victims of human trafficking in need of rescue and rehabilitation, and sent to confinement rehabilitation centers for sex workers and drug users. This ongoing campaign to clean up the streets of HCMC was part of a
HCMC
larger
means
public
হচ্ছে
effort to transform.
sorry, HCMC হচ্ছে এই যে কি city, which city? Ho Chi Minh City, okay? Ho Chi Minh was their leader, okay? Vietnamese leader, okay? Ho Chi Minh City, the streets of Ho Chi Minh
The
City.
streets of HCMC was part of a larger public effort to transform Vietnam's international image from a corrupt socialist country to an attractive destination for Western investment.
Empowerment, yes, sir, investment. So those women who are engaged in sex industry, they are mostly targeted. Either they are mostly targeted by whom? By the state as well as by the NGO workers. So by the state, how? A state, because of their commitment with Western world, Western investors, they are committed to rescue the third world countries women from so-called prostitution and to rescue them so-called from deception and trafficking. So what actually the Vietnamese state did at that moment, they operated everyday raiding or something through police. So when police raided any bar or any other kinds of brothel, they asked women where you would like to go. Either you will be in prison for 6 months to 1 year, or we can rescue and we can hand over you to the NGOs. So what NGO will do with you? NGO will train you. How they will train you? They will train you how to make accessories, how to make garments garments, accessories, and many things. So after taking training from NGOs, you will get rid of this thing, and you can independently operate any small business, or you can enter any job industries. Okay, so any women who are arrested or confined by the police, they had always two options: either you will be in prison, or either you should enter in NGO's safe home. Okay, so they had no any other option. So they were not actually aware what actually the desire, what actually the reality of those sex workers within the Vietnamese context. Clear? Clear? Clear, Faiza?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the perverse humanitarianism, তোমার হচ্ছে diverting incarnation but trapped in তোমার হচ্ছে an NGO. এখানে Okay, so এই যে তোমার হচ্ছে when any women mostly arrested, they always had two options. Okay, what are those two options? Faiza, can you read it out? The police presented.
The police presented these women with two options. They could be marked as criminals and taken to a state-run rehabilitation center, or they could claim that they were victims of sex trafficking and be transferred to a local NGO, where they would stay for several months while undergoing rehabilitation. In other words, the sex worker must choose between being a criminal of the state and removed from society, or a victim in need of care and protection by NGOs.
Okay, so মানে either you are criminal and
Sir,
removed
একটা
from the
question.
society, okay, so you have to তোমার হচ্ছে obey this one. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Sir, আমার একটা কোয়েশ্চেন আছে।
হ্যাঁ বলো।
স্যার, মাঝে মাঝে দেখা যায় এই এনজিও গুলো মানে এই মেয়েগুলোকে দিয়ে সেক্স ওয়ার্কার হিসেবে কাজ করায়। What about that?
No, we will talk it about later. So just let us finish the discussion first.
I think in this page একদম শুরুতে একটা কথা বলে না যে it's ironic how they don't know how to locate these women and they need the help of police to get to these brothels. I think that is very important, that the NGOs are so detached from this kind of work যে ওরা আসলে পুলিশদেরকে দিয়ে কাজটা করাচ্ছে. You would assume that they have connections and they know these, and they're working very intimately with these women, but they're coming like a brutal outside force invading into their.
Yes, so mostly this kind of raid mostly tomar operated by the NGOs. They had connection with police department. Okay, so when police arrested or confined any women, she always tomar hocche she had two options. Either you are criminal of the state and removed from the society, or you are the victim of so-called trafficking and you should be rescued, and you should take care and protection by the NGOs. Okay, clear? Okay,
Yes, sir.
so when they had only two options, they had to choose one. So majority of the women tomar hocche choose the later option because they hope to be free sooner, and because they thought that it would be shorten their future sentences if they were arrested a second or third time. So a 23-year-old sex worker explained it ekটু পড়ো তো ইয়াসমিন, the first time I was
The first time I was arrested, I went to jail, the state-run rehabilitation center, for 6 months. And they told me that if I got arrested again, I would have to stay for 18 months. A year later, the police arrested me again. And this time, a social worker from the NGO told me that if I said I was forced to have sex against my will, then I could go with her to a shelter that was better than jail. I lied to go to the shelter because she promised that I would only have to stay there for 4 months, and that was better than 18 months in jail.
So clear? Thank you. So clear. So what actually their options? So you should declare that you are the victim of so-called trafficking. Otherwise, you will be in jail. Okay? So if you declare that you are the victim of so-called trafficking, then you will be rescued by the NGO. So why NGOs working in such a way? Because the NGO tomar hocche এই যে NGOs as well, এই যে এটার নাম কি so-called humanitarian groups, এটার নাম কি they usually get huge amount of donation fund from foreign societies to rescue and save these so-called third world countries women. What actually তোমার হচ্ছে এই যে discovered from this article that the majority of the এই যে sex workers from whom the author Kimberly তোমার হচ্ছে with whom the author encountered and engaged, she found that majority of them, they were not trafficked even, or majority not, mostly none of them were trafficked. It was their own choice. However, when the NGOs, they were mostly looking for trafficked women, they didn't get any single women within the Ho Chi Minh cities. So what actually they did, majority of the time they produced false report, fake report, and they produced fake image to show the Western donor agencies that these women, they are the deceived, they are the trafficked or something, blah 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 blah. বুঝছো জিনিসটা? Okay, it is just to run their own তোমার হচ্ছে business or something, মানে এই যে মানে their own institution. Okay, okay, এই যে Yasmin, read it from here. When I asked the women,
When I asked the women if they felt like being in the NGO was better than the state-run rehabilitation centers, many complained that the NGO provided them with better food, but otherwise it was akin to being in jail. Their daily lives were structured by strict rules and routines. They were confined inside facilities with private guards who locked the doors and slept right outside at night to catch those who tried to escape. In a conversation with three women, Than, 25 years old, B, 26 years old, and Hang, 22 years old, they explained why they never tried to escape. Kimberly, have you ever tried to leave the NGO? Than, no one runs away because the director will threaten to call the police and send us back to jail. No one wants to go to jail. Kimberly, have the guards ever hit you? Hank, no, they do not hit you. They get into your head and make you worried that you are going to the jail for a long time. B, it is better to just stay here and get through it because the food is better and it's less time. But it's not that different from being in jail.
okay, so
The
it is not
women
thank you. So it is not মানে হচ্ছে different from them. So mostly here they talked about their everyday life in NGO shelter house. Hey, they had to produce তোমার certain kinds of এই যে garments, accessories, and other kinds of fabrics and so on, and they usually receive less than 100 তোমার হচ্ছে dollar per month. Okay, okay, so in addition, okay, workers tomar wages are deducted if they made mistakes with the material that caused them to throw out ruined pieces of fabric. Okay, so yet, after completing a 4 to 6 month rehabilitation regime at the center, very few women had the resources to purchase materials to start their own business. So Western world, the NGOs, humanitarian activists, they argue that if they will rescue and save these women from so-called trafficking, and when they will train them within their own a shelter house, following 4 to 6 months, they may would be able to operate their own business. But majority of the time it seems that those who have তোমার হচ্ছে get rid of so called এই যে home এই যে shelter center, very few তোমার হচ্ছে had the resources to purchase materials to start their own business. So really tough to open new business because or তোমার হচ্ছে or the language ability to market their own products abroad. They have very limited access তোমার হচ্ছে run new business. Okay, so the way it is being said that they will be rescued, they will be empowered, that is something misleading. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
Then the author talked about why the majority of the women who by choice entered in sex industry. Okay, why? They are not actually they are not they are not তোমার হচ্ছে the victim of trafficking or deception or something else. And many of them তোমার হচ্ছে entered in the sex industry by their own choice. Why by their own choice? Can you read it out from here? Are you used to work, Yasmin?
I used to work in a factory making $70 a month. I did that for many years, but I was not making enough money to send to my family, so I quit and went to work on the streets. One day I got caught on the streets and was sent into the state-run rehabilitation center, and then this woman told me that I could get out early if I went with this organization that would teach me how to sew clothes. I agreed so that I could get out of this center. I'm here now doing the same thing I was trying to escape. They say they want to help us, but they are only helping themselves. I paid $30 million VND, equivalent to 200 US dollar a month, to work here. But I know that they will sell these clothes for a lot more money abroad.
Okay.
In that conversation,
Okay. Okay, so হচ্ছে I was on এইটা একটু পড়ো তো, এই যে this one. I have had many jobs. in
I
my
have
life?
had many jobs in my life. I have done everything. When I was 13, my aunt introduced me to a family in Saigon who needed a maid. I worked for them for 3 years. I was their slave. I worked 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. I only made $1 million VND, equivalent to $50 US dollar a month. I woke up every day at 4:30 a.m. to cook 3 meals a day, do all of the laundry, run errands for the kids, and give the wife massages. They kept all of my money and sent it straight to the village because they said I would not know how to manage my money. They told me that Saigon was very dangerous and if I left the house alone, someone would kidnap me and sell my virginity. It didn't matter because when I turned 16, the husband raped me and took my virginity anyway. He told me that he was preparing me for life as a wife and was teaching me how to please my future husband. I hated him, but I was afraid to say anything because I was embarrassed. One day, the wife caught us. She did not say anything. The next day, she found me a job in a local factory making clothes and told me that I had to move out. The factory, she told me, would pay me 2 million VND equivalent to 100 US dollar a month. She said that it was a better job for me. In factory, the bosses were cruel. They only fed us one meal a day of porridge. I
Forage and fish.
and fish, and if you did not work fast enough, they would come around with a skinny stick and hit our hands. My fingers hurt and my back was always in pain. I was desperate to get out, so I asked to work in a bar, first as a bartender and then later as a sex worker. It was only way out.
So think about the again the question of the landscape, the socio-economic condition in which the Vietnamese women তোমার হচ্ছে they are living. Near about তোমার হচ্ছে 4/3 of Vietnamese, they are the poorest of the poor, and because of their socio-economic condition then they are forced to তোমার হচ্ছে enter in informal job sectors such as think about এই যে তোমার হচ্ছে the interview of V Van, হ্যাঁ তোমার হচ্ছে she worked for a family for 3 to 4 years and she received only $50 for a month, and she had no any access to utilize those money because those money straightly তোমার হচ্ছে forwarded to her own family members in village areas, and she was raped by the তোমার হচ্ছে male members of that family. Then she entered in the job market and she raped by her own এটার নাম কি her own boss, তারপর tortured, slang, তাই না, and mostly humiliated in their everyday life তোমার হচ্ছে by the so-called boss. So in their job sector mostly they are being defied, tortured, humiliated, and they are earning less than $100 per month. So it is really tough for them to survive with these তোমার হচ্ছে with this landscape again, through so the labor exploitation, economic exploitation, due to these specifically these reasons, many of them they always try to get a way out. So which one is the way out? This is the sex industry where they can তোমার হচ্ছে they usually get a sense of liberty, and they can earn more money, even the way the so-called Johns or so-called clients, they are being তোমার হচ্ছে presented and represented as someone are the perpetrators of something that is not correct at all. Many of the women, those who have entered in this industry, they can make too much money from their clients, and their clients always many of the clients, because many of them are the western billionaires, তারপর হচ্ছে not only billionaire, western তোমার হচ্ছে people, those who have enough money, so they can spend huge amount of money against them. Okay, clear? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay, so another one, another case study, এটা একটু পড়ো তো হচ্ছে মাশাইক, everyone comes in here.
Everyone comes in here and looks at these pamphlets with photos of women crying or happily sewing clothes. That is how the organization gets money from people to pay for this place. People feel sorry for us because they think that we were forced to sell our bodies and they want to help us. It is so backwards because we are probably sleeping with the donors' husbands and they don't even know it.
Okay, so those who are actually তোমার হচ্ছে living under the so-called rescue center, the rescue center mostly, হ্যাঁ বলো।
এসব কি হচ্ছে স্যার?
Yes, so mostly the rescue center তোমার হচ্ছে এটার নাম কি sell their image, sell their photos in Western societies to receive money, to receive donation, and they portrayed these rescued women in such a way they are crying. They would like to save themselves from the so-called tyranny of the trafficking, and they're saving them, so they need money to look after them. So the way they approach the Western তোমার হচ্ছে donor agencies, okay, clear? Clear?
Oh my God, স্যার এসব কি হচ্ছে চারপাশে?
So this is the reality. I don't know in Bangladeshi context there are myriad of the তোমার হচ্ছে এই যে if you go তোমার এই যে টাঙ্গাইল, মাদারীপুর, even নারায়ণগঞ্জ, even Dhaka city, you will get the same thing. হ্যাঁ, এই যে মগবাজার মানে হচ্ছে I live near about 5 years in Mokbajar during my Dhaka University life. Mostly I'm Dhaka University life. What I have noticed that in many times police often raided the তোমার হচ্ছে so-called hotels to rescue so-called women. এই যে বাংলাদেশে তুমি দেখবে the same kind of narrative, same kind of thing to rescue these women from so-called এই যে from this so-called tyranny, economic tyranny. So same thing happened all over the world. Okay. এটা একটু পড়ো তো এই যে মাশায়েক the NGO.
The NGO used to have me literally go on the internet to find images of women who were forced to sell sex. We use the same photos that all of the other NGOs used. They are fake photos, and they put those side by side with women who are happily making handicrafts. We do this to get donor money, but if you actually talk to the women, none of them are trafficked. My boss then charged her rhetoric to say that
changed her rhetoric.
Changed her rhetorics to say that our efforts are to prevent human trafficking. So I said to her, there are 40 million girls in this country, three-fourths of those who probably come from poor families. Are you going to target all of them and try to provide them all of them with alternatives to prevent them from entering sex work? That was so stupid. None of the NGOs will talk to each other because they're all competing for the same donor money. But who are they really saving?
So this is the interview from NGO workers. So they need to produce fake images, fake তোমার হচ্ছে photos and fake narratives তোমার হচ্ছে to approach the donor agencies. Clear? In the name of so-called saving women. Okay? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay? So the report, so clear সবাই?
জি স্যার।
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the final one, the Johns. So the Johns means the clients, whether they are the sexual তোমার হচ্ছে predators or heroic saviors. Okay. Corporations indirectly profit from philanthropic support for women and children who end up back in the factories working for contractors who produce their goods. In addition, NGOs empower state actors to enact repressive measures as they rescue, rehabilitate, and restore women who never wanted to be saved in the first place. As Amy so fiercely told me, NGO workers need to leave us alone and go save factory work. Acha. So এখানে যে জিনিসটা the মানে author tried to explore that when NGOs and garment companies engage in corporate philanthropy to save trafficked women, they essentially force women into exploitative working conditions. Those women are trying to escape when they entered sex work in the first place. So এইখানে যে জিনিসটা ঘটে many assume that যে তারা এই যে এটার নাম কি they would like to escape from their factory workers এবং হচ্ছে they are always the victim of so-called deception by their clients. But this is something misleading. How this is something misleading? এটা একটু পড়ো তো মাশায়েক in America.
In America, people hear all of these stories about girls who are kidnapped and sold into brothels. They think that someone can just come to your house in the middle of the night, put you in a van, drive you across the border in Cambodia and sell sex. No one forces us to do anything. But sometimes we tell our client that we need money to escape the bar and they will give it to us.
Okay, so think about the Bangladeshi society. If you go through the movies of Bangla movie, if you go through the Bangla movie, even Indian Calcuttian movie, or even tomar hocche so-called South Indian movie, you will see the same narrative. Those who are the prostitute, why they're the prostitute? Because tara hocche they are the victim of the deception, they're the victim of so-called tomar hocche blundering or something, blah blah blah. Yes, many of them they are being trafficked, they are the victim of the deception and so on. But many of them also entered by choice. Okay, clear? So think about, if you go through the movies of the Bangla movie, you can see the same narrative that she is being blundered by her boyfriends, yeah, or she's being trafficked by her neighbors or someone else. But this is not the real case in all of the time. Okay, clear? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So Faiza, can you read it out here? Men like me probably. Faiza, can you hear me? Okay, Faiza maybe lost her connection. Zahara একটু পড়ো তো এখান থেকে, এই যে এখান থেকে পড়ো। In the hundreds of conversations.
In the hundreds of conversations I had with male clients, I was surprised to find that the vast majority of the men came to Vietnam looking for love and emotional intimacy in a third world country. Very few men were interested in relationships that involved any kind of
কোয়েশ্চেন মানে
coercion.
জোরাজুরি আর কি। হ্যাঁ,
In a long conversation, Josen, a man in his
mid-60s from the Montana. Okay,
from
just
Montana
for you, just
stated-
for your information, when you will visit Cambodia, Vietnam, you will see the method of the people from Western world. They visited and traveled Vietnam, Filipino, Thailand, for sex tourism, and many of them they are old aged. মানে আমি তো মানে খুবই odd. If you visit Vietnam, Cambodia, you will see many people. You will see they may would need assistance তোমার হচ্ছে to move the তোমার হচ্ছে এই যে office chair, they even, it is really tough, many of these male তোমার হচ্ছে to move the office chair of the hotel, but they are here তোমার হচ্ছে just looking for love and emotional intimacy during their old age. বুঝছো? Western people. So the study at the measure of the clients, they are not only from 18, many of them তোমার হচ্ছে mid 60s, mid 70s, mid 80s even, এখানে তো দেখা যাচ্ছে কি 74 years old people. You will find many people, those who are old age, মানে people তোমার হচ্ছে from 60 to 70, they are available মানে in তোমার হচ্ছে মানে they often visit Thailand, Vietnam and Cambodia. Okay, so this man Jason, a man in his mid 60s from Montana, stated that, yes, carry on Zara, men like me.
Men like me probably make women like you very uncomfortable. We come here and get hooked to younger women. It looks bad. I grew up at a time in America when women stayed home and took care of the family while men worked. My wife and I were happily married for many years. When she died 2 years ago, my world fell apart. I didn't know how to cook or clean or take care of myself. I was depressed. I needed a wife or someone to take care of me. In Asia, some women still hold on to those traditional values, and I can afford to take care of a woman on my retirement fund.
Clear? So same thing. So হচ্ছে many old age people. Maybe we have already talked about the people of the Cox's Bazar. You know, the many Cox's Bazarian women, they often died because of the so-called cancer. You are aware, because of the dry fish, many তোমার হচ্ছে Cox's Bazarian people, women mostly, they died. So majority of the people, বিশেষ করে male যারা, they do not have any option to get married again during their old age. Then those who are age with 40s, 50s, 60s, and they're always looking for love and intimacy, and through the Rohingyas women. So similarly, the Western people, because they have the money, they have resources, they often visit Thailand, Vietnam for love and intimacy. Okay, and they
Sir, I
always.
watched this movie called The Five Bloods, যেখানে দেখায় হচ্ছে এরকম পাঁচজন যারা ভিয়েতনাম ওয়ারে ছিল, they come back to Vietnam to party. ওরা তখনও পার্টি করতো, এখনো পার্টি করতো।
Yes.
So ওরকম একটা like মানে eroticism-ও আছে, I think.
Yes, many those who are the mostly the soldiers of তোমার হচ্ছে US forces, 30 years war. Can you just imagine? Many of them, they are forced to stay there for years after years, and they had to automatically, তাই না, they had to enjoy their তোমার হচ্ছে এই যে এটার নাম কি, solitary life with bars, brothels, and women. So many of them, they just তোমার হচ্ছে reminiscent their previous life, and they visit again. Okay, so এটা একটু পড়ো তো হচ্ছে এই যে এই মেহনা, sex workers capitalized.
Sex workers capitalized on their male clients' genuine concern and sympathy by creating fictive crises about a sudden death in the family, their desire to escape the brothels where they worked, or the mafia that was after them to pay back a debt in order to ask for additional money. They often said things to clients like, "My motorbike broke down. I have to walk to work. Can you help me buy a new motorbike? And my father, very sick. No one in family helps, so I have to work. I am from Angiang village. You go to village before?" In an interview, Phi Hyung, a 21-year-old worker in Naughty Girls, said, "Last night I had sex with this guy and I went into the bathroom and squeezed garlic in my eyes so that I could make myself cry. I lay next to him sobbing, telling him how mean the owner is and how I saved $1,500 US and I need $1,500 US to get out of the bar. He gave me $400 US.
So তোমার হচ্ছে they always narrate fictive crisis, তাই না? They always তোমার হচ্ছে fake narratives, even they show the fake তোমার হচ্ছে images of the village. When the client from Western world, Western societies, they often visit Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon City, in Vietnamese. They approach their clients that I live in তোমার হচ্ছে in miserable condition in village areas. Would you like to visit my village? And many of the sex workers, তোমার হচ্ছে they তোমার হচ্ছে constructed, তোমার হচ্ছে a mostly a ruined তোমার হচ্ছে village which is fake, which is actually is not their own house. So they often মানে হচ্ছে approach their client to visit that fake house, which they argue that it is our own house, though this is not their own house, and urge their client to provide money, তোমার হচ্ছে to construct or rebuild there. So in many of the cases, these Vietnamese women, those were the sex workers, তোমার হচ্ছে they earn huge amount of money from their so-called Western clients, and through this money, they can independently operate new business, or anything else. Clear? So the way we assume the clients, they are the perpetrators, they are the trafficker, it is not true at all. Okay? So clear? Clear? Any question from anyone else? Any question right now from anyone else? Raisa, any question? Raisa?
Yes, sir.
Any question?
No, sir.
Okay, anyone? Any question?
No, sir.
Fariha, have you read the article?
No, sir.
Oh my God. So clear
I
about
will
the
read it
main...
by tonight, inshallah.
Okay. So you are aware with the main arguments of this article?
Yes, sir. It's
okay,
clear.
So the way মানে তোমার হচ্ছে we often argue that the women of তোমার হচ্ছে women, those who are working in sex industry, they should be rescued and they should be saved. So মানে the way we are arguing this kind of narrative, that is something problematic. Same thing in Bangladeshi context, because these women, the socioeconomic condition in which they are living, that is something problematic for many of them. So those who are তোমার হচ্ছে living in তোমার হচ্ছে problematic socioeconomic condition, specifically those who are working in garment industry or in other factories, they are not getting enough resources, enough salaries or something else. So তোমার হচ্ছে to look after their own family, হ্যাঁ, even তোমার হচ্ছে sometimes this is their independent choice. Okay, clear? Pretty clear?
Yes,
Pretty
sir.
clear? Okay, so in final class, what I will do, I will provide you a Google form to fill up your class attendance, your class contribution, class participation marks. You will mark yourself, okay? Out of 10, yeah, you will mark yourself, okay? In final one. So those who have তোমার হচ্ছে attended more than তোমার 75% classes, they will automatically receive more than তোমার হচ্ছে 9 marks, okay? আর যারা মানে those who have attended less than 70% classes, you should have proper clarification why you have missed the classes, otherwise it will তোমার হচ্ছে হ্যাঁ তোমার affect your তোমার marks, okay? Clear? Clear? Kinjulai?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so final one, final essay, I will upload it by tonight. Read it, submit it as early as possible, then you are free, okay? Final exam, I will ask to write 2 questions, that's it, out of 4, okay? Clear?
Okay, sir.
2 questions,
Yes,
30
sir,
marks,
it's
okay?
clear.
2 questions, 30 marks. I will
স্যার
upload,
অপশনস থাকবে?
2 out of 4, okay?
ওকে।
But Maria Meister important, please answer that one, okay? Faiza, any question?
No, sir.
Okay, so what you have intended, you will submit your remain reviews, or you will submit a new essay?
Sir, I'll be submitting the reviews.
Okay, please do it as early as possible, okay? Okay,
স্যার রিভিউ 10 এর রিডিংটা একটু দিয়ে দিবেন, আমি ফেসবুকেও মেসেজ করেছি একই জিনিসটা নিয়ে।
okay, I just Delawar Hossain's book final, it's a 3rd chapter, okay? 3rd chapter of Delawar Hossain's book, okay? I
এই
will
বইটা
upload it.
কই পাবো স্যার? আচ্ছা আপনি আপলোড দিবেন, ওকে।
I will upload it, আমি তো সবগুলো আপলোড করেছি, okay?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ,
Okay, so don't worry
Thank
about it, okay?
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
Okay, any question from anyone else, any clarification queries? Mashaik?
স্যার আমরা কি শেষ করে দিচ্ছি ক্লাস?
Yeah, next week we'll finish it, okay? Next class, okay?
স্যার দেখতে দেখতে এই সেমিস্টারটাও শেষ,
শেষ।
অনলাইন সেমিস্টার।
হ্যাঁ, এরপর নিউ একটা সেমিস্টার, ওকে? See you in
Sir,
next semester.
স্যার আমাদের কি গ্রেডিং পলিসি চেঞ্জ করবে না?
আমি তো I'm not aware of it, okay? এটা তো হচ্ছে ইউনিভার্সিটির